Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So Christmas is only a few days away, so I thought to do this bonus tutorial on how I make my cheat Christmas cake. So traditional Christmas cakes are very intense fruit cakes that are usually made in advance, a few weeks, maybe even months in advance, and then preserved by soaking them in alcohol. And I don't know about you, but I hate Christmas cakes like that. I think the alcohol taste is way too strong, and I get people love it, but for me, I take away the alcohol, which means you can also make it last minute. So if you don't have a Christmas cake and you want one, then I highly advise to make this recipe. So what I've got here in this bowl is a mixture of raisins, sultanas, and some mixed peel. Now, traditionally, Christmas cakes may also have glacé cherries, which I don't like eating, but if you like eating them or want to add something like currants, but as long as you have the same quantities of the dried fruit, it will work just the same. So I'm going to place this into a saucepan and just mix the fruit to combine it. And then we now want to add moisture to this fruit. So here I've got a juice of an orange and a lemon, and that's going to go straight inside the fruit. And I'm going to heat this up for about 10 minutes until all that lovely moisture has been absorbed by the fruit. So while the fruit is heating up, I can get on with the main cake batter. So as always, I'm going to start off with some melted butter straight into a bowl. And then I'm going to be adding some soft, dark sugar. Now we want this cake to be lovely and dark and rich, which is why I'm using the brown sugar. And as well as the dark sugar, I'm going to be adding some black treacle, also known as molasses. It's basically a very refined sugar, and that gives it this extra dark taste. And it just really works well in any sort of fruit cake, or anything Christmassy for that matter. And then into the bowl, I'm also going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. And mix that together. Actually think a whisk will incorporate it a little bit better. Beautiful and glossy. Now I can go in with my eggs and mix them through. So now I can go in with my dry ingredients. So here I've got flour and baking powder. Now, to be honest, the baking powder doesn't actually work to its full potential because it's going to be a really fruit-heavy cake, but it does just give it that little help in the oven of rising. So that can go straight in. Now we're going to add even more Christmassy flavors. So I've got a mixture of ginger and cinnamon. You can also use mixed spice. You can add some nutmeg. And that can go straight in with the flour. And then I'm going to add the zest of an orange and a lemon. And just zesting the orange and smelling the spices. Wow, I'm excited for Christmas. And now I can mix that all together. Delicious. Right, so batter's done. Now I'm going to go check on my fruit. So you can see how the fruit's absorbed the liquid, which means it's good to go. And now ready to add to the cake. So the fruit's ready to be added to the batter, but obviously the fruit is really warm because it's just come off the stove and the batter has eggs in, so if you put the fruit directly in when it's still hot, it's going to start cooking the batter. So what I'm going to do is actually put an ice cube in with the fruit and let that melt in, and it will also bring the temperature down of the fruit. So once the ice is melted, it's cooled down the temperature of the fruit. It's added a little bit more moisture, but I think that just adds to the moisture of the cake, so I don't mind that. If there is a significant amount of moisture, then you can just drain it off. But this now can go directly into the batter. And mix it through. Smells delicious. Kind of reminds me of a carrot cake batter, only just with dried fruit instead. Right. Ready to fill the cake tin. So here I've got a 7-inch lined tin. You can probably bake this in an 8-inch and get a slightly shallower cake, but I quite like the idea of having a thicker cake, but of course the cooking times will vary. And this can go straight in. So now it's time to bake. This takes about an hour in a 160°C fan oven or 180 degrees without fan. Check it after an hour. You can do the knife test or just feel if it's springing back. But it is quite a heavy cake, so it does take quite a while to bake. So wish me luck, and I'll see this cake in a little bit. Wow, wow, wow. My kitchen smells of heaven right now. It's baked beautifully, it's baked flat as well. Now this took exactly an hour to bake, so maybe even check yours 55 minutes after putting it in the oven, but it's perfect, completely cooked through. I'm gonna leave it to cool completely and then take it out the tin, ready for decoration. So the cake has been cooling for an hour and a half. Like I said, it's a very dense cake, so it does take a while for it to cool. You can leave it even a bit longer. I can just feel how squidgy it's going to be inside. So now it's time to decorate. And what I've got here is some royal icing. Now traditionally Christmas cakes are decorated in marzipan, even fondant. Again, I don't really like eating either of them. So royal icing is a nice alternative. And I've written the recipe for this below, and you can also find it in my other tutorials, especially my more recent tutorials of my gingerbread house. So to stick this cake down onto my cake board, I'm just going to take a little bit of royal icing, and that's just going to ensure that it doesn't move around. And it's pretty flat underneath, but I do want the flattest surface facing upwards. So I'm going to keep it upside down. Now for the decoration, essentially you could do anything you like, but I'm going to apply this royal icing all over the top of the cake. And I'll spread it out using a palette knife. And the turntable just helps me spread out this royal icing, but if you don't have one, you can do this just on the flat surface. Just until the edges. And I'm just going to leave this to air dry for a few minutes and then put on my final bits of decoration. So I've given the royal icing a few minutes to set. So what I have here is some leftover green buttercream, which I've put into a piping bag with a large leaf nozzle. And I'm going to pipe a wreath around the whole thing. Like I said, you could decorate this however you like. You could leave it plain, but I had the buttercream, and so I thought it would look pretty. I'm choosing a top, which is up here, and I'm going to start piping the leaves. So I'm going to squeeze the buttercream out and come off. I'm going to do it in alternative directions all the way around the outside of the cake. And then I can pipe some random leaves in the middle. And then I'm going to do the same thing around the other half of the cake. And then I like to add just a few random leaves in different directions just to give the wreath a more natural look. So for the very top of the wreath, I have some larger sprinkles here, which kind of resemble the holly, I guess. So they can fit at the top here. And to add some festive colour, I've got some more sprinkles that I'll apply around the outside. So there we go, an alternative to a classic Christmas cake. Try it out if you want to have one in time for Christmas, and I hope you enjoy it because it really is delicious. I'm gonna cut me a fat slice right now. If you are celebrating, then have a very Merry Christmas and see you very soon for even more tutorials.